Quiet cutting, the innovative new way that employers are sticking it to their ungrateful employees. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to try this again. Today is Labor Day. I tried to go live earlier and I had a mishap with my media, but today's Labor Day. Labor Day, we are celebrating it. You know, a lot of people are off. I wish everyone was off because it is a day to be celebrated in that we owe a lot to it. We owe a lot to labor. 5-day work week, 40-hour work week, things like overtime, family medical leave, maternity leave, even, I don't think we have paternity leave, but all the things that we kind of have as a standard for American living, we owe it to labor because in eras past, you know, we've learned the hard way that we can't trust employers by and large to do the right thing, to do right by us, given the fact that we generate the wealth that they enjoy. And so we had to band together and say enough is enough. We just want a fair shake. We want to be treated fairly, and so we are celebrating Labor Day. Big shout out to the folks at the UPS for winning that amazing tentative contract agreement where they're getting the pay that they deserve. Some people are griping about it like they don't deserve to make $100,000 a year. But then, like, you know, these are the guys who bust their backs and bust their tails, you know, to make sure that we get the crap that we need. Not the crap that we need, just the stuff that we want. Everything that we order on Amazon, all the things that we buy that 85% of we don't even need, they work their tails off to make sure that we get it fast when we want it, because we just don't like to wait. And obviously if you order online, it's because you don't want to get up and go to the store. It's convenient, man. That's the American way. So shout out to them, and also shout out to the folks, all the powers that be, that got together and said, hey, you know what, we're gonna pass this new thing. I guess I don't know if it's just Biden or what have you, but you know, now if you decide to get together and vote to become a union, companies can't union bust anymore. Look out. If you're a company and your employees vote to unionize, be careful. Don't try to go union busting, because now under this new law or this new mandate, they're automatically recognized as a union. So you might end up, you know, in a worse off position if you try to union bust. You know, traditionally, union busting is like the go-to thing for companies to kind of like bust up any potentiality of a union forming, where they have to actually come to the table and actually, you know, level with their employees instead of just straight up taking advantage of them. These employees, where in unionizing, they got to get a freaking lawyer to do contract negotiations because you cannot be trusted to do right by them, and they just want a fair shake. Okay. But anyway, big ups to those people. I wanted to talk about quiet cutting. Quiet cutting. We've heard about quiet quitting, which is a silly thing for people to even that it shouldn't even be a controversy, because quiet quitting describes what should be the most that any employer should require out of their employees. If you hire me to do this set, you know, bullet points of tasks, and I don't go anywhere beyond that, you have no place to gripe and complain. And I don't care what era you grew up in. It's not my fault. It's not the kids, you know, the younger generation's fault that you decided to work hard and not smart, right? Or if you see that I'm efficient, I should not be punished for being efficient with my job, right? And so then they call it quiet quitting, because it's like these corporations, they just cannot take that. They can't take the idea of an employee not breaking their back for that almighty dollar that they only get pennies of, and you get to enjoy the rest of, if that makes sense. So anyway, now we have quiet cutting. So what is quiet cutting? Right? Quiet cutting is basically demotions. Like, you're being demoted, right? So you work at, let's say you are a manager, and you know, you're going from manager being demoted down to supervisor. And why are they doing this? Well, you can take a wild guess, but I'm sure you're all smart enough to know it's so they can save money. They can get more out of you for less money, right? So what a lot of these organizations are doing is they're doing away with positions. Let's say you have a director position. They're saying, hey, we are eliminating that position. We're getting rid of it. And the purpose of doing that is to put you between a rock and a hard place. They're saying this position's gone. What's left is this position that was beneath it. And we're not going to tell you directly, but we're going to put you there. So that way you have to step outside of the scope. Whereas when you're a director, you can delegate all those additional tasks that are not within your scope to someone that's beneath you, like a manager or maybe an executive or something like that. And now you have to take on all those roles. And it's, chances are that with being demoted in that manager role, things are more open-ended. On top of that, we're going to give you a pay cut. In many cases, we're going to give you a pay cut. So you're doing more for less, right? Now, you can take it or leave it. If you take it, fine, you get a pay cut. The company wins in that they're getting more out of you for less money, right? If you leave it, the company still wins, sort of, because they don't have to, you quit, so they don't have to pay your unemployment insurance, they don't have to pay your golden rule insurance, they don't have to pay for your severance packages or anything like that. And so they kind of win all around. And I guess they're just kind of rolling the dice, because everything in business, I don't care what anybody says, nothing is written in stone in business. Everybody says that, like, oh, these are business practices. Everything is a freaking gamble. When you're running a business, everything you do, top to bottom, is a gamble, is a roll of the dice. There are things that are tried and true. But as this world all around us continues to change and morph and evolve, with climate change and all the things going on all around us, hot to hotter, cold to colder, right? Infrastructure is demonstrating how outdated it is. We won't bury our power lines, right? And it's all showing. So like anything that you think was like traditional, especially if you're of that brick and mortar mindset, man, you need a serious update. It's just not the case anymore. And so with quiet quitting, they're doing that to save money. So they don't have to basically save money for them, get more out of you. And if you quit, then they don't pay any money. And it's just win-win-win for the employer. Lose, lose, lose for you. Now, of course, journalists and organizations that are reporting on this put this out there like, it's the company doing what they need to do to survive. They got to survive, right? Just going on this notion that like, everyday readers, people who like pay any attention to this stuff are inherently stupid. They're by default not smart people. So we're going to spin all of this like, look, the company has to do this so they can survive and get by and save money, right? When you hear the term save money, you instinctually go to a mindset of like, oh, okay, they're struggling, right? If a company's cutting this and doing this to save money, it's because like they got to be able to pay their workers. When that's just not the case. That is not the case. When companies do stuff like this, restructuring, reorganizing, or they call it stuff like that, because basically what they're doing is moving how the flow of cash works so they continue to get their bonuses. So the folks at the top continue to get their bonuses, or this is by law, shareholders continue to get some sort of return, right? Because a lot of these companies, publicly traded companies by law, have to remain profitable. Otherwise, I guess they can risk getting sued. So like if I own stock in, Chevy, I guess if I take a big loss, I can, if they're not profitable, I can sue them. I don't know what the case is with that. But anyway, they now it's quiet quitting is this new trend. News is all over it, like, very pro companies. Like this is a good, necessary thing that these organizations have to do to survive, when really that is absolutely not the point. They can't fill positions because a couple of reasons. First one being the pool of available workers is at an all-time low. That's the unemployment rate. When the unemployment rate is low, that means that pool of people who are qualified to take their jobs, it's slim pickings, right? So they don't have as many people, which means that they have to become more competitive to attract those people to take those jobs. And over the past couple of years, they've been doing that. Remote work, better benefits packages, kind of giving it to the people. But then, like, obviously, after so much time, they're like, no, man, F this. I don't like this. I don't like giving all this to the workers. It's like, I'm looking at, John, we started him out at a robust payment package. He's doing the job, sure, but like, I know that, A, we can get more out of him. We should get more out of him because he should just be grateful he even has a job, right? And I don't like the worker having leverage. So let's demote him. Let's get rid of his position, demote him, and kind of put him where we would have put him if times were different, if we were pre-pandemic, where we did have all the cards. And so that's what's happening right now. Let's get into this video here. I wanted to share with you guys this is from Money Watch, CBS News Money Watch. These people are just like, it's unbelievable how they premise things. But I went with this because in the end, they came out kind of the most, everything I read about it was basically like, this is a shining thing, glowing, awesome thing that companies have to do. It must be done because they have to have all the cards. They have to have all the power, and workers shouldn't have any much say in anything. Whereas these people at least had a couple moments of clarity where it's just like, all right, they recognize it for what it is. So let's take a look here and see if I can do this without messing up, because I did this all wrong last time. Bam, there's a video. We're going to play it. I'm going to comment as we go along. Let's do this.
Well, imagine getting a call from your boss saying that your current job title has been eliminated. So you're not getting fired, though. That you're just getting reassigned to a new role.
Well, that's not so bad.
No, that's not bad at all. Right? You were you were a medical assistant and you moved up to supervisor. And then from supervisor, you went to manager. Right? And after some more time, they say, hey, yeah, we're going to bring you back down to supervisor. That's not so bad. At least you have a job, which is BS, right? Like, get out of that mindset of like, well, gotta eat. We gotta eat. It's like, take what's there because you gotta eat. That's nonsense, man. Like back in the 80s, yeah. Because listen, if I were born like a year or two earlier, I'd be Gen X, right? But I'm an old millennial. Right? Back when I was a kid, yeah, minimum wage, you could get an apartment. You can live. You could be all right. Take care of the bare necessities, right? Today, that's not the case anymore. Get out of that mindset of like, you got to take what's there because you got to eat. That's nonsense. Because these days, being at the bottom means that you got to choose between eating and paying rent. Eating and paying for your prescriptions. Because that's from what I've seen. Most people that think like that are people my age and older, of like, gotta eat mindset. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. And it's exactly the kind of mindset they want to keep us in. So they keep us in the positions that we are. Always just being grateful for crumbs. When all we want is to just be able to pay the bills. I want nothing more than to be able to pay my bills because they're due and I'm responsible for them. So I'm showing up to work every day. And all I want is to make enough money where I can satisfy those bills. And I don't know, maybe once every other week, enjoy a freaking pizza. Let's move on.
Right? It's happening to many employees, too, apparently across the country. According to a new Wall Street Journal report, layoffs are down, but employers are still finding ways to cut out jobs.
So what does that mean, right? Layoffs are down, so they're holding on to employees. But what they're trying to do is look for ways to get more out of them. We need to find ways to get more out of them because we cannot keep incentivizing new employees to come in and take any kind of vacancies that we want. We need to get more. We're going to turn around and stomp on the people that we have now and take all that we can out of them.
Companies like Adidas, Adobe, IBM, and Salesforce are doing more quiet cutting. They're reassigning employees as part of corporate restructuring. According to financial research platform AlphaSense, reassignments more than tripled over the last year. And the author of that piece is Ray Smith. He is a careers reporter with the Journal, and he's joining us now. Hey, good to see you. I thought this article was so fascinating, but it's also like, every fear that you have as an employee, when you start to wonder.
Yeah, of course, play into the whole fear, right? Every fear you have as an employee. And what they're specifically talking about, my generation and older. Where back in the day, there used to be a legitimate fear of losing your job. Where if you lose your job, there's a fear that, I won't be able to get by and what have you. But then what happens when the jobs become less and less and less quality? Quality that's so poor, but also so abundant, right? Whereas like if listen, as a kid, you could work at Walmart and get by, sure. But what happens when like the money you earn from Walmart is no different from any other BS job out there that are plentiful? And yeah, you can get a job at wherever, any other place, any old time, and you're still gonna be in the same boat. But they're right here pandering to the fear. Like, hey, be afraid, right? Because that's like the mindset you should have. To always be scared of your employer. To always be scared of what might happen. They might take your money from you. Nonsense.
If something is going on around you, like this nails it. Except for probably a lot of people too who are still working remotely, so there's nobody to even talk to,
yeah, exactly.
to get a sense of what.
BS, of course, they got to take a dig at people working from home, right? The biggest thing that people are just demanding, right? Enough with this nonsense of working in a space that you hold investments in, these office real estate that you're heavily invested in. Enough of me occupying that space to do this job that I can do 10 times more efficiently at home.
Happening. So first off,
like, yeah, those people are out of touch, right? They're like cooped up and siloed off from society and whatever, freaking water cooler talk is going on at the office, right? Those people are out of touch.
let's just get the basics. Can you explain why companies are doing this? But you know what? Before I want you to give us more of an example of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the examples of employees that you spoke to that found themselves being quiet cut, I guess?
Sure. They actually recounted getting that phone call or an email from a manager basically telling them your job has been reassigned and you will be doing this from now on, and basically take it or leave it. And so employees I talked to had a range of emotions when they got those memos. They were either, relieved that they still had a job.
Cap. Nonsense. Okay? If he's, again, I feel like this whole thing is kind of like they know who their audience is. Like they're gearing it towards people of my generation and older. Right? I can't even say millennials, but like Gen X and older. Right? Relieved that they still have a job. That is not the case with millennials. That's not the case with Gen Z and then soon to be Gen Alpha. And why is this the case though? Right? It's because newer generations like millennial and on look back at Gen X and older and they see how they worked as, I guess, inefficient, right? Like make it make sense, like they say, to work hard and not smart. Why would I work hard and not smart to make $1 for somebody else, for which I only get pennies off of? I'd rather work smart and not hard. And then what good is any of it anyway? Because like I'm not gonna be able to buy a house. I'm not gonna be able to do anything. And now those Gen X and Gen Zs that do own real estate and do own assets are holding on to them for dear life. For dear life. Because like now with the way everything is, like, man, it's like you don't have any choice but to stay in your house. You don't have any choice but to like put money into like keeping your car going, because like you can't imagine buying a new car with a $10,000 markup, right? A kid coming out of college, I need a car. They got to put up with that stuff they got to pay markups where we were negotiating $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 off sticker price, right? They got to pay 6% interest, maybe more, on like $500,000 homes that used to be $120,000 back when I was a little boy, at interest rates that were higher, but like on a much, much lower principal. I was talking to grandparents the other day. They're talking about my mortgage. I bought my house for, I think it was like $180,000. My mortgage is $544. Mortgage is freaking $544, and this is like a 2,200 square foot rancher. Okay, this is what the older generations have right now that younger generations can only dream of. Ain't no way they're gonna be able to get there with the way things are going on right now. So now, how can you expect them not to throw their hands up and be like, what the hell is the point? What am I going to be hustling for if I work 2 freaking full-time jobs? There's not enough hours in the day for me to be where my grandparents were, where even my parents were. So get off it with that.
but on the other side, they were angry and confused, and they felt like the new job they had was either, lower status or lower pay or more responsibilities or something that they didn't even have experience in. And so they were really angry at the companies about this. So it's
The truth comes out. Just start with the truth, man. Please, like, just don't do this thing where it's like, well, people were just like, oh, I was relieved, but I guess then after that they were like angry. We're like, no, tell the truth. People are pissed. Nobody in any kind of higher position is gonna feel relieved and be like, oh, at least I still have a job, in being demoted, man. Get out of here with that. I swear they just talk like, this is just like that corporate speak, because it's like, it's a corporate like hive mind, like this hive mind thinking of like, there is anything occupying the world and space around HR world and corporate world are people who are just undeserving of anything that they have, and we are the reason, we are their lifeblood, and they owe us everything.
the range of emotions. One worker I spoke to told me that it actually took a toll on his mental health. So it's a range of emotions.
Yeah, took a toll on his mental health. Like, yeah, okay, you mandated that I come back to work. A lot of companies are mandating you come back to the office, right? Because they're like, hey man, I'm trying to restart the cardiovascular system of this real estate, corporate, office real estate that I have heavy investments into, even though like it's I don't think there's any saving it at this point, but like, we're going to make you come back. Right. And it's not enough that you're already dealing with the depression and headaches and the stress of having to go back into the office to put up with these idiot moronic managers that lord over you, people that have no business being there. Because let's keep it real, man. We've all been in contact with managers that are just epically not smart. That makes you question everybody that works above you. Who made the decision to have this moron be my manager? Whose brilliant idea was to have this epic idiot be CEO or CFO or COO? Some of the stupidest people I know are in higher management higher management positions like that. And you know a bunch of them too.
Like, you gave an example of a guy who was in like management, and then suddenly they were like, well, you're in sales in this area that you know nothing about. Go ahead.
See, that's, initially, if you just kind of read the headline of it, you're like, okay, corporate restructuring,
right?
Like companies saving money, like that. You still
Corporate restructuring, companies saving money. Like, what does that mean? Saving money for who? Saving money for what? Why? Right? Normally, when you hear that, an unknowing person would hear that and think, well, they're saving money to stay afloat. They're saving money to stay in business, but it's not the case. How many corporations, including news corporations, that are profitable are like, man, I don't care about profits. I care about my bonuses. So lay off cut who you have to, screw over who you have to, lay off, restructure however you got to do it so I get my bonuses. These people can't see past the tip of their noses.
get to keep a job. You still have your health benefits.
Yeah.
Potentially, you still have your 401k. Hopefully, you know, doesn't sound so bad. But as you're saying, this could be really awful for a lot of people.
Could be. Oh, this could be really awful for a lot of people. Well, yes, this is very true, and I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, because what these corporations doing this, what they're gonna do is ultimately, eventually, shoot themselves back in the foot again anyway. Okay, because what happens is you're gonna demote these people and bring them down there to work job positions that are, let's keep it real, beneath them, right? That's why they're in a higher position. They don't want to go back down and do things that they would otherwise delegate that work to other people. So they go down there, they take a pay cut, they're doing more work, right? Meaning what? I'm sure, I don't know if you guys heard the term loud quitting, right? When I first heard it, I thought, yeah, that's like when you say F you to your manager and you quit your job. You're like, I quit. But no, loud quitting is when you have an employee that has too many keys to the company, actively sabotaging your company. It's not enough for them to just quit or get fired. They're like, I want to burn this thing down, right? So if you're an employer, be very careful that you're not creating loud quitters, okay? Because if you're saying, hey, Jane, I want you to do this, and now I'm going to demote you so you could do this, and this, and I need these things done on time. Da, 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 da. And Jane, for the first few months, might be like, after a while, she's going to be like, man, F this. I don't care about this company. I don't care anymore. I really don't. I don't care if this place survives or not, because I'm not even surviving, right? So then what happens is they start selling trade company secrets. They start actively sabotaging things, like planting explosive at all the key structural areas of your company. And then that's what they term loud quitting, when they do things to sabotage your company. And if they don't loud quit, what are they going to do? They're going to quiet quit, which I think is so dumb. It's such a stupid thing for that to be controversial, that like people doing only what they agreed to do when they were hired are now considered quiet quitters, that they're lazy, quiet quitters for not doing more than what they agreed to do. If you want them to do more, you pay them more, right? That's how it goes. But like, people are over this going above and beyond rat race thing. Why? Because they see time and time and time and time again, they get none of the benefit of their additional hard work, busting their tail, putting in wild hours. And like, well, they get paid. They get paid, and they should be grateful to have a job. Well, if that was so potent a thing, why is it not a thing anymore? That's a disconnect between, Boomer, Gen X, and then everybody else. Everybody else looks at their dad, their uncle, their mentors, the people that they grew up with, and like, I see what they're doing, I see why they did it, and I see the outcome. That's not going to be me. No thanks. Because I'm imagine me like putting all this overtime, and I hate my job and all this stuff, and at the end of the day, right? 2008 crash happens, and I lose all my savings anyway. What? Why? Tell me why this is still a viable thing that everybody should be engaging in. It's nonsense. So then the third part is, you got people who will straight up quit. Like, okay, if they quit now, I don't got to pay anything. But you're still going to be in a pickle if they leave, right? So you have those three kinds of quits. You have loud quit, quiet quit, and then quit. There's so many. It's really silly the more I think about it.
Absolutely. And if you think about just people, how their identity is sort of tied up with their titles and the work that they do. And if you're suddenly being told, do something else, especially if it's a demotion or sort of lower pay, lower skilled, and then you have on top of that more responsibilities, it sort of sends you spiraling and wondering, what is the message that the company is sending to me? Or what are they trying to tell me? Are they really
that you are a commodity, that you are nothing but a tool to be moved, bought and sold, and at the first chance they get, let me tell you something, they will automate your position. It's coming, right? Automation for everything is coming. It's gonna, like every corporation is their wet dream to automate every last thing. And until they can do that, they're going to look for any old way to get the most they can out of you for the smallest amount of dollars paid out.
Trying to get me to leave or force me into this job that they know I'll be so miserable in that I'll eventually quit.
So then why are companies doing it? Is it kind of a low-key way of downsizing?
That's a really good question. No company will say this is why we're doing it, like we're quietly cutting people. But the bottom line is that it is sort of a reduction in workforce, almost in a passive-aggressive way, sort of like pushing you in this corner and saying, if you don't take it, you have to leave. And the bottom line is that if somebody who refuses a reassignment or eventually leaves after not liking the reassignment, once they leave, the company doesn't have to pay thousands of dollars in severance costs. So it actually saves them in cost.
That's infuriating.
That's what it boils down to. Right? It's about saving. Saving what? Saving what? Saving costs. They're reducing costs. And then for what? To pay the bills? No, if they have to, they'll just file bankruptcy and just move the money all around. Like, look at Rite Aid. I think it's their second time going through a bankruptcy. And like, they're still around. Right? They're just moving their debt and all that crap all around. It comes down to saving costs so they can pocket more of that money. More of the money you generate for them.
Infuriating to me in some ways,
It actually saves them in cost.
And so, and this is also why I decided to share this piece, because like this is they appear to have moments of clarity, right? And they come out and being like the most real. Check it out.
That's infuriating to me in some ways, you know. To be clear is to be kind. Like just
like that.
tell me what I need to know.
Yeah.
If I need to go look for something else. And the severance thing can be a really big turning point for a lot of people to get them
Yeah.
over the hump. So,
Yeah.
you know, you're forcing people to do something that isn't necessarily good for anybody.
Is it though? Good for anybody? It's good for the executives. It's good for the shareholders. It's good for investors, right? And that's all they care about. That's the only people they care about. They don't care about you.
I do think it's kind of interesting, and I've really wrestled with making sense of the economy the last few years. But a year ago, U.S. resignations set a record. We saw companies rolling out new titles, raises, you know, you can work from home, just to keep employees from walking out the door. Now we're talking about this. What's changed?
I'll tell you what's changed. They realize, okay, we're gonna do this stuff in the short term, right? But once they started seeing that, man, these workers have too much pull, too much say, I don't like it. A lot of these people in these executive positions, these higher up positions, have been there for decades, okay? Forever. And it was probably already like nails on a chalkboard to be like, give them how much more to come on board, to do how much more to bring them on. And then they're like, no, man, F all this. F all this. Everything be damn. I don't care if we stop being profitable. I don't care if we go under. I want my bonuses. Okay? I need to close on my third yacht. All right? And I need to close on my third beach home. To heck with these people.
That's a really good question. What's changed is that while the job market is still relatively strong, it's not as strong as a year ago. And so what that means is that if you leave your job, whereas last year you might have been able to find a new one in days or a week, now it's taking much longer to find a new job.
That's not true at all. That's a straight up lie. Right? Because like that depends on what you do, where you live, whatever. Like that, as far as like how quickly you can get another job, depends, right? That's not something that like, oh, before you can get in a couple of days, a couple of weeks. I've never had a part time in my life where I got a new job within days. You know, normally like I find another job and it could take days, weeks, months before I land a interview. But as far as like finding a new job in days and weeks, that's just not true. And they're trying to like play down the fact that he's mentioned in the beginning that it's good, like it's strong for the worker, right? But he's like trying to play down that like, hey, it's not so strong anymore when it absolutely is. But as far as like how long before you find a job, that depends. That is subject to like a lot of different variables. It's a mixed bag. And to say definitively, oh, you know, before you can get a job in a few days, a few weeks, now it could take months. Like, no, in most cases, it could take weeks and months before you find the right job.
So the job market isn't as strong as it was a year ago. So that's the key difference.
Okay, well.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's just, you know, some moments of clarity there with this piece. But yeah, you know, it's quiet cutting, right? And why? Because like, you know, they're trying to stay afloat. No, it's because they just prove over and over and over again. Now the good news is that now it's never been easier to unionize, right? So this quiet cutting thing is proof in and of itself that these organizations don't care about you. They don't care about their workforce. They don't care about anything. All they care about is lining their own pockets, getting their bonuses. And even in 2008, when the stock market crashed, we bailed them out without tax dollars. Okay. And they still got their bonuses, their payouts. The people that tanked the economy still got their pay through our tax dollars. Okay. They don't give a crap. Let everything be damned. Let it all fall apart. We want our money. Right. And so now, you know, with this whole NLRB thing, with this current administration, you know, now union busting is like, watch out, because traditionally, if I were like a boss in a company and I see that, you know, the workers decide to collectively join up and vote to unionize, I can do all kinds of things to like bust up the union to make like I could harass them, I could retaliate, I could fire, I could do all this stuff to make people like just kind of disband and abandon their endeavors to become a union. Well, now, if you try to do that, the government automatically instantly recognizes them as a union. They supersede you, or whatever the process that used to be the case that takes a while. They instantly recognize your workforce as a union. So watch out. And it's just the fact that we even need unions says enough about the worker-employee relationship. How the employers, they just can't be trusted to do right by us. They cannot. And so we need things like unions so we can have a day like Labor Day off. Labor Day that we owe the 40-hour work week, 5 day, the weekends too, and all the things that we kind of like enjoy as a standard here. And to think that, now, so before work from home is like a big thing that largely only pertains to white collar work. But now you see like the UAW, other unions fighting for a 4-day work week for blue collar workers. And I think that's freaking awesome. In fact, the 4-day work week or 30-hour work week was the starting point in negotiations between FDR and Ford, or I don't know if it was Ford per se, but like the industry as a whole. They were talking about doing a 30-hour work week instead of a 40, and they kind of settled on a 40-hour work week. And but yeah, this is why unions are really important. In all my previous videos, like a lot of what I'm seeing is like people are just largely upset and dissatisfied with their workers, and like describing things that unions cure, right? But the problem is that the past 2 or 3 decades, right, union busting entities and organizations have been doing a really good job at busting up these unions. But now you have, listen, UPS with their win, right? I was one. I was like, where do I apply? Where do I apply? Right? Because then what happens? You get a surplus, right? When you offer things like that, you get an epic surplus where staffing no longer becomes a problem. No longer becomes a problem. And you have a surplus and you have a wait list for people that want to come and work for you, because even if it's because you're forced to, you are taking care of the workers, right? And so anyway, that's all I got for this episode, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm way behind the curve. I really, really, really missed my mark with reaching 1,000 subs by the end of August. And that's on me because I just haven't been putting out content. I decided, I'm going to try the live route because I do way, way, way overthink my approach to creating videos, and I can't afford an editor. And I write for my videos, and I end up, next thing you know, I'm like, I'm literally writing a book, and I just can't stop writing and thinking and like revisiting and revising to make sure that I'm clear. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just try speaking from the heart. So I hope you enjoyed this, guys. If you did, please share this out with anybody that you think may benefit, or, listen to this as a podcast, and subscribe to my channel. And yeah, that's all I got for today. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.